We're in the second generation Rivian R1T and R1S today, and we're getting a little dirty to see just how new it feels. Oh boy. You've heard the phrase death by a thousand cuts. Well, this Rivian R1 second generation is the opposite of that. A rebirth by over 600 new parts. Now, both the R1T and the R1S see significant changes to their suspension, their wheel and tire packages aimed at increasing performance, range, and comfort. But the R1S that we're in right now sees the biggest changes, with even larger changes to its spring rates, its damper rates, even the bushings, all aimed at giving you a more quiet and more comfortable ride, even when you're axle deep in water and bouncing off of rocks here at the Dirtfish Rally School. Now, in the all-terrain mode, as I'm going around these really tight switchbacks on the off-road handling course, it's interesting that I can really feel the way that the all-wheel drive system does a good job of noticing that I'm trying to turn right and then giving me that sort of good squirt of power to the rear end to rotate the vehicle around. It is a very intuitive and very natural feeling way to get around a corner, and it's actually giving me a lot of confidence getting around some very tight turns in this large SUV out here on the off-road course. So we're taking a course spin on the rally course, trying out the drift mode, which actually lets the all-wheel drive motors get a little bit more aggressive at the rear end so that you can kind of hang the tail out just a little bit easier. Now, one of the things that I find interesting about this mode is that moment where the car and your steering inputs sync up perfectly. It figures out that you're trying to make a turn, you're getting a little bit of understeer, and it just scoots the rear end out. It's very natural and very easy to predict after you've spent a couple of minutes driving this car in loose terrain situations.
Rivian has totally overhauled the R1's electrical systems, evolving to what it's calling a zonal architecture, a reorganization and reduction of the network of wire harnesses and modules needed to operate the various systems in the vehicle. In total, this removes over 1.6 miles of wire from the EV, or around 44 pounds of copper alone.
The second generation R1T and R1S will also receive a software overhaul that replaces the more realistic looking graphics that we saw for visual representations of the vehicle with this cel shaded cartoony look. And these aren't static graphics. These are real-time 3D graphics that are just cel shaded. And as you go between the different drive modes, you'll see that you get a little bit of an animation that moves the vehicle through these different environments and settings.
Rivian surprised me the next day with a trip to a sunny and blessedly dry drag racing strip where I was able to test the R1S and R1T quad motor on a prepared surface with these Super Sport summer tires, which had been all warmed up for optimal straight line grip. My first run was in the R1T quad motor for a short 0 to 60 mile per hour test.
3, 2, 1. Woo! That's 80.
And then gently on the brake, you're going to do a U-turn at the end just before these orange cones.
So you can feel it in the pit of your stomach. It's the similar sensation to falling.
Yeah.
You know, like when you go down a roller coaster and you get that sort of like weightlessness feel, except for it's in a lateral direction. Serious acceleration there.
Next, I switched to the R1S quad for a full quarter-mile run.
Here we go.
Nice. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Flat out, keep going. Keep going. Lift. There you go, keep going straight.
All right, so what do we got here? We got top speed 130, so that's VMAX. Quarter mile 11.14 seconds. Not bad for something that can haul your family and all of their gear with you when you go camping. 0 to 60 this time, 3.22 seconds. 0 to 100, 6.76. It's proper sports car numbers there.
Differences in weight and wheelbase account for the variation in acceleration between the truck and the SUV despite the identical powertrains, but the pickup proved to be consistently the quicker of the two with the more visceral launch every time.
Now, the second generation R1s may look a lot like the previous generation. You may actually pass one on the road and not even notice that something's new. But Rivian tells us that they've touched every single aspect of this vehicle, from the powertrain to the battery to the interior creature comforts to the tech in the dashboard. Like I said, there are over 600 new parts in this vehicle.
Admittedly, most of those new parts are hidden beneath the totally unchanged body and sheet metal, but Gen 2 owners can expect updated electric motors, which are mixed and matched for the R1's dual, tri, and quad motor electric configurations, ranging from 533 horsepower up to a bonkers 1,025 horsepower and 1,198 pound-feet of torque for the top spec quad motor setup, which claims 0 to 60 in under 2.5 seconds. Now, speaking of range, R1G2 gets new battery tech with more energy-dense cylindrical cells for the large and max batteries, and a new prismatic cell lithium iron phosphate pack for the standard setup, aimed at keeping costs down for the entry point dual motor standard, even though it is a touch heavier. Rivian estimates between 258 and 420 miles of range depending on the chassis, T or S, the battery, the powertrain, and the selected wheel and tire package, with the best numbers coming when equipped with these new 22-inch Aero wheels with eco tires specifically designed for R1. R1 models will continue to feature native CCS ports for DC fast charging, but Rivian also currently supports the Tesla pioneered NACS charging via an adapter. At a fast enough station, expect to get from 10 to 80% state of charge in around 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the battery you've chosen. Rivian's also updated the front and rear light bars with new RGB LED segments that animate when charging and can even be used to indicate which direction to pass on when the hazard lights are activated. R1's headlamps are also new with digital matrix projection that can partially dim certain zones to avoid dazzling oncoming traffic, though that feature will have to be activated via a software update later this year.
So there you have it, the rebirth of Rivian's R1T and R1S for their second generation. As you can tell, they've improved in pretty much every way that I can measure out here in the dirt, in the rain at Dirtfish. Be sure to head over to CNET.com. We've got even more detail about both of these electric utility vehicles. I'll meet you there.